Okay, fight fans, this is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I just recently watched an interview on First Take, and Errol Spence was the guest on First Take, and they were asking him who was the possible fighters that he sees that's a super fight when all the dust settles and all these other fights clear up. Who does he see himself fighting for that ultimate super fight? And Errol Spence mentioned Keith One Time Thurman. We all know Keith One Time Thurman is not ready, does not want to fight Errol Spence. You know, he made excuses. He said that he will bust his hot air balloon, Earl Spence's hot air balloon, when he was, when they were, pumping this guy up to be something. Wait till he gets a belt. Earl Spence has the belt. Now he's not ready. So that's where we're at with Keith Thurman. They asked him again. They asked Earl Spence again. Stephen A. and Max Kellerman asked him both, who do you see out there that's a special talent? He again said, well, I think it's Keith Thurman. Well, Max Kellerman then mentioned Terrance Crawford. And Earl Spence necessarily didn't shy away from it because he said, well, that's, they spoke on what Terrance Crawford said, that, he does want to fight Keith Thurman, and he wants to fight you too, Earl Spence. And Earl Spence replied like, well, that's how a fighter's supposed to fight. That's how fighters supposed to want the top fighters. But at the very end of that, he stated that, we don't know how he's going to do at 147. And he should worry about Jeff Horn first before stepping in the ring with me. I'm real good at weeding out BS and reading more into what people say. Earl Spence didn't have a lot to say about Terrance Crawford. I mean, he didn't disrespect Terrance Crawford. But as far as he replied of his desire to fight Terrance Crawford, it was more, to me, he came off by the remarks that he made that he would want Terrance Crawford to prove himself first before even stepping in the ring with me. And in other words, I don't care if you beat Jeff Horn. You still got to prove yourself at 147. And I can go as far as that. Jeff Horn has the WBO, which he took from Manny Pacquiao in the decision in Australia. So when Terrance Crawford beats Jeff Horn, unless Jeff Horn, this is boxing, we never know. But Terrance Crawford is an odds favorite to beat Jeff Horn. Let's face it. Now, when he beats Jeff Horn, Errol Spence's remarks, it seems to me like, okay, you beat Jeff Horn because Jeff Horn's the weakest link. Errol Spence didn't mention Jeff Horn. He didn't mention a WBO belt. He's just mentioning Keith Thurman. So it looks like everyone's had, Keith had a target, which was Danny Garcia, okay, because he wanted to unify those belts. It looks like to me Spence is trying to target just only Keith Thurman and not necessarily everyone, because why didn't he mention, well, when whoever the winner was out of Jeff Horn and Terrance Crawford, I will fight them. Then hopefully Keith Thurman will be available or be ready to fight me. Then I'll fight him. Then I'll have all the belts. He didn't say that. He mentioned Keith Thurman twice after knowing Keith Thurman did not pick up the call, did not desire to fight him, and made a statement that said he wasn't ready. So why would you keep saying this guy when then they bring up another suggestion, which was Terrance Crawford, which is the 140-pound ex-former undisputed champion of the world, and you say things like, oh, and mind you, pound for pound, one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. Why don't you want to fight him first? So you can't talk about Keith without talking about Errol Spence. Errol Spence said, well, yeah, I'll fight him as soon as that. We'll see about that fight or whatever, but he should worry about this first. It's not he should worry about anything. Terrance Crawford is going to worry about who's in front of him. I don't think that it's his opinion or responsibility to state what Terrance Crawford should watch out for instead of, hey, do you want to fight Terrance Crawford or do you not want to fight Terrance Crawford? Because it seems like to me, you would get a fight quicker with Terrance Crawford than you would Keith Thurman. Because Keith Thurman isn't ready. He said he won't be ready for all of 2018. So he's looking at 2019. Okay, well, if you know that, and you know you're sitting around, that means that who are you going to fight? You know what I'm saying? Or are you going to, so you're saying you don't want to really fight Terrance Crawford. So now you're saying Terrance Crawford has to prove himself at 147, which I can kind of get that. But for me, it comes off from him. That sounds like more like an excuse than anything else, because you got a guy coming from 140 that's pound for pound the best in the world, over you, might I add, in rankings, and getting a title shot against Jeff Horn, right? So he gets the WBO belt. Now you're saying, well, that should be a reason for you to fight him because he has one of the belts, not, oh, he has to prove himself at 147. He's already done that by taking the belt off Jeff Horn. You know what I mean? So I don't think that it's his, I don't think that he should express his opinion about who he feels Terrance Crawford should fight before he fights him. Because it sounds like a cop-out. It sounds exactly like what Keith Thurman did with him. So if he does the same thing to Terrance Crawford as Keith Thurman did to him, nothing changes. It's all the same. Then you just got one guy want to fight everyone else, and then one guy wants to fight another guy that don't want to fight him but wants to fight another guy. That's crazy. That's the problem with boxing these days. If Terrance Crawford, when he beats Jeff Horn, they should set a fight with him and Errol Spence. Whoever wins between those two then has to settle the score with Keith Thurman, if Keith Thurman is man enough to accept the challenge. That's how it should go. That's how I should see it. And then that's the next super fight. It's not Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman is not available. He is not ready. He states he has a injury and he wants to have another tune-up fight, maybe 2 tune-up fights before he gets in there with Spence. So that shows the legitimacy of Spence, that I don't want to just take Spence lightly, but then again, I don't want to fight him right now. So why don't you fight, since you, Errol Spence, know that, you should fight the next best guy, or if not, the better guy, which is Terrance Crawford. My guess is you don't want to fight Terrance Crawford because it's a lose-lose situation. If you beat a guy like Terrance Crawford, they'll say, well, he wasn't tested anyway. That might be the point. But if Terrance Crawford beats you, it'll be embarrassing for someone from 140 to come up to 147 and just take the boogeyman of the division, which is Errol Spence, which is him, and takes his belt and defeats him. So then everyone will say Errol Spence is overrated. I don't think Errol Spence is overrated. I don't think he's overrated. To some people, they overrate him, but I don't think he's overrated. He has hard punching power and great body shots and things of that nature. But what I do think is, if he fights Terrance Crawford, I think he will lose. I think that Terrance Crawford has too many weapons in his repertoire for Errol Spence. Terrance Crawford can fight 10 different ways. Errol Spence, I see, can only fight one. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't really know how to fight but one way. He's like a Felix Trinidad compared to a Bernard Hopkins. You know what I'm saying? It's like Terrance Crawford can turn it on. Terrance Crawford can fight. He can box. He can move. He can switch stances. He's a switch hitter. He can do it all. Versus Errol Spence can only go one way. That's forward. And if I'm gonna give you a good barometer of a fight that you should look at. Look at him when he fought Kell Brook. The only reason Kell Brook really didn't beat him simply was because, and he gave Errol Spence problems going over there getting that belt. He didn't just go over there and take the belt from Kell Brook. Kell Brook gave him one hell of a fight in England. And then a guy that can move like that and box, he gave Errol Spence hell. You know what I'm saying? And imagine someone with all the weapons in his arsenal like Terrance Crawford. And then he can move because he's not going to do like Lamont Peterson. He's not going to sit there and let Errol Spence well on him like a punching bag. That's not going to happen here. When he gets in there and fights Terrance Crawford, Terrance Crawford is going to show this guy so much that he's never seen that he's just going to outbox this guy and probably let alone stop him. Because by the 6th or 7th round, Errol Spence is going to be coming forward, taking shots that he doesn't normally take because he's not going to be able to hit like he normally hits. Just like Kell Brook did to him the first 7 rounds of that fight. Errol Spence started to catch up with Kell Brook as he started to slow down, pick his shots. You know what I'm saying? But he was Kell Brook was giving him problems. Okay? So Terrance Crawford can do that and a lot more than Kell Brook because he has more punch variety, better ranges of punching, longer reach, quicker. You know, I don't know about hit harder, but it really doesn't matter if you're getting hit with punches that you don't see. So that's my take on the whole thing. The whole welterweight thing between Spence and Terrance Crawford. Terrance Crawford is at 147. And I think he's there to stay. You know? And if Errol Spence don't want to fight Terrance Crawford, I think he's pretty much made that known by saying uncertain things like that. Like, okay, well, I think he first has to do this. And you know what I mean? They didn't ask you that. They asked you if that was the guy that you want to fight. He didn't necessarily say no, but he didn't say hell to the yeah either. So those are the kind of things you look for. It's not what a person says, it's what they don't say in the way they should have said it. You know when a fighter wants to fight a guy, and you know when he really don't want to fight a guy. You know what I'm saying? So he mostly said it like how Danny Garcia would reply to, like, yeah, I'll fight anybody, or I'll fight. You know what I mean? It ain't like, no, I'll fight him and I want him and I'm hungry for him. He got the WBO belt. I want him too. Then I want Keith Thurman when he's ready. He didn't say that. You know, he said it in certain ways and in pauses and, and certain things. He was kind of careful on how he said things. And that's all I'm going to say about that. You guys tell me what you think about it because that's what I feel. But I want to know what your opinion is. So leave it below. Please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.